Hey everyone, welcome. My name is Dmitry Omzhensky, and today we're going to build the entire chat application where you can in real time send your messages, you can reply to those messages, you can add your reactions, you can attach media files like images, you can invite new chat members to your chat room, and we're going to build this everything using GetStream IO service. And besides that, we will implement the authentication using Firebase, and we will integrate those two services and make them work together. GetStream.io is an incredible engine that allows you to build real-time chats and feeds, and they're sponsors of today's video. I will drop the link to the GetStream.io webpage so you can create your own account there, create your own chat and play around with that for free. And in this video, I'm going to show you how you could do that. So stay here and let's get started. All right, let's get started from the official GetStream.io webpage. GetStream.io is a platform that allows you to build real-time chats and feeds faster. They provide you CDKs for that, so you can build your own chat just in few hours, even less. And you can see that they have two APIs, first for chat messaging and the second one for activity feeds. They also use machine learning personalization for activity feeds. So sounds pretty cool. If you would like to explore more about those APIs, you can follow those links and check this out. As you can see, there are a lot of companies using them. You can find also such big names like Adobe, eToro, Crunchbase. So the services are reliable, definitely. And to be honest, I got very good developer experience using their CDK. Talking about CDKs, they have a lot of them. Really, you can see they have obviously for React, for Android, for iOS, for Unity, for Flutter, of course for Angular, and in this video, we will be using exactly this CDK. Actually, it comes already with all features that we need usually for the chat, not only messaging, but also you can do different attachments, you can attach GIFs, you can attach different media, you have reaction on your messages, and you can do it right out of the box. Also, right out of the box, they handle permission stuff for you. So you can have moderators for the chat who can moderate different threads. Everything you can imagine that needs to be in the chat, it is there. So now let's jump to the application I prepared for this video. Yeah, I did some preparation because I didn't want to bother you with creating all this layouting stuff. Usually it is the most boring part, so I used Angular material to create this sign-in page, and also I have the sign-up page where we will be creating our accounts. And yeah, it has link to the sign-in page, and of course we have the chat page that is located under the /chat URL. So far it is completely empty. We don't have any routing guards. We have really nothing, only just the view part. And this is how everything looks in the code. Just Angular application that has some basic routing. You can see here our pages for sign in, sign up, and for the chat. Besides that, we have app component that's really empty. We have Auth service. It's a dummy service that just emulates the authentication, but it doesn't really works as expected. We will replace all this logic with the logic that will come from Firebase. And there are also you can see two modules or two features. I have a module per feature. So there is an authentication. There are two components, like a sign up component that does pretty much nothing. You have just a reactive form, and you have the sign up method. We will just slightly modify all those stuff a little bit later. The same story for sign in page. You can see there's nothing form container. It's just some wrapper to avoid repetitive HTML parts. So I just project content inside. So nothing really hard. I will commit this initial state to the GitHub so you can pull it and and check everything on your own. So I will not be wasting your time for that. Cool. Now we can start with the implementation, and our implementation will consist from basically three parts. The first part is that we will connect Firebase to our project, and Firebase will provide authentication functionality for us. Once we have authentication, we can start implementing our chat. And once we have basic implementation of the chat, I will show you how you could configure the view of your chat, how you could customize it, and things like that. And let's get started with the installation of Firebase CLI. In order to install it, you have to run this command. If you want to install it globally, you use this -g parameter, and you install the package Firebase Tools. It will take some time, and once everything's successfully installed, you will be able to run Firebase, for example, --version to see which version of the CLI do you have, or you can run --help and you can see the whole list of available features. There are a lot of them actually. So yeah, this is everything what you can use. Now we would need to log in to the Firebase. If you didn't do it before, you can do it by running Firebase login command. And I'm logged in currently into my account, but in your case, you might be redirected to a web browser. Then you have to do authentication, and then you will be redirected back to VS Code. Now we have to create the new Firebase project. You can go to Firebase console to create it, or you can use the CLI, and actually you can run this command Firebase projects create, and then with --name you can define the name of your project. I will name it GetStream IO decoded, and here I'm asked to provide some unique project ID, so GetStream IO decoded. Here we go, it will take some time, and finally our project has been created, so I can follow this link to reach my Firebase console. So let's copy this link and paste it somewhere here. Cool, and while we're here, I would suggest you to go to the Authentication tab, and let's activate this feature for our project. I click this Get Started, and here we have to pick which provider do we want to activate. I'm gonna activate email password provider, as simple as that. So I should save it, and you can see that in sign-in providers list we have email password authentication enabled. We don't need anything else so far in our Firebase console, so I can jump to VS Code. And at the next step, I'm going to install Angular Fire package. It provides us a lot of helpers to deal with Firebase, and in order to install it, I will run ng-add Angular Fire command. This ng-add will trigger an appropriate schematic that will help me to immediately set up the project for my Angular app. So we would like to proceed, of course. it will install required npm packages, and here you can see options what we want to activate for our project. For now, I would need only authentication, and I don't really need ng deploy, but let's see if this video will not be so long. I will show you how to deploy also your Angular app to the Firebase hosting. So let's leave it for now, and the rest of those things we don't need so far. So I press enter, and here you have to check which account you want to use. I will take my account, and then you will get the list of all projects in your Firebase account. I will choose the project we just created, GetStream IO Decoded, and after that we have to select our hosting website. I will take this variant, it works for me. Please select an application, and here I have to create a new web application. It asks me how I want to call my app. Okay, I'm gonna call it GetStream IO Decoded. My application is being created. You can see that they were created and updated appropriate files inside my environment TS file. We got the config for Firebase. Same has been done for production environment as well. Inside app module, we got required imports, and they were also imported to the imports array in our application module. Besides that was patched our Angular JSON file. There were added deploy property and rules how we should deploy our application to the Firebase, things like that. And of course, we have Firebase JSON file where we have different rules for hosting and nothing else besides that so far. But we will modify this file a little bit when we include also Firebase Cloud Functions to our project. But for now, I can close it. Now, as I said before, we have to replace our fake authentication with the real authentication that comes from Firebase. And I would suggest you to start with sign up functionality. So I would suggest to start from authentication service and start to replace this dummy functionality with the real one. And first of all, we have to inject the auth service from the Firebase. So I imported from angular/fire/auth. Make sure that you imported it properly. And then we're going to replace this part and provide the real authentication state from the Firebase. In order to do that, we have a dedicated function that is called auth state, and this function takes as an argument the authentication, so the auth property that we injected in our service, and it returns either observable of user or null if user is not authenticated. After that, I'm going to find my sign up page, and here I will replace this dummy stuff with the real implementation, and we're going to sign up user using a dedicated function called create user with email and password. And this function takes as a first argument our authentication, and then we need to provide the email like that and user password. Here we go. And TypeScript complains because there is no such a properties for our user. So let's add the proper typings for our user. I would suggest you to create a separate file, and I'm going to use it auth model ts, and I'm going to export interface. I call it sign up credentials, and there I define the email that is going to be a string, and then I have display name that is string as well. And what do we have else? We have a password that is also string. Cool, so now I can copy this interface and replace my object right here. Don't forget to import that. Also, we could destructure our object and grab email, password, display name as well, and provide it like that without duplicating the user string. And this function is supposed to create a new user in the Firebase. It returns promise, not an observable. And here you can deal with that a couple of ways. You can use async await approach like that and deal with the promise like that. But I prefer to wrap promises always in observable. So I'm converting promise to observable by using from operator. Don't forget to import it from RxJS. I don't really like mixing up promises with the observables. I'm trying to convert everything to streams. You can choose any of those two approaches, whatever you like, but I personally prefer to convert promises to observables always and work always with observable, because observable in Angular, they're everywhere. And when you don't mix up those two approaches, usually it is easier to do the composition between different streams and things like that. So I will be using observables in this example. So yeah, let's move forward. And now you can see that we have display name, but we didn't use it so far. And it is because you cannot provide some data which should be created along with the user. So currently my user will be created only with email and password. And basically that's it. But I would like to immediately update my user in Firebase and provide the display name for my user. So I will do additional call to Firebase to update his profile, and I will be doing this inside the pipe. So once we create a user, then I will use the switch map operator. By the way, I have a couple of videos regarding flattening operators in RxJS. You can check them out as well, and you will get better understanding what they're doing. And this flat map, or switch map, sorry, it takes a callback function. Here I can destructure my user, and then inside the body, I can, or actually I don't need it, I just should return the result of the function called update profile. And there, if we have a look what it takes a user and then the object where it should provide it a display name, photo URL, and yeah, those stuff. So what do we need? We need to provide a user, and there I provide the object with my display name. All right, nice. It should work fine. Now we can go to our sign up component right here, and we will remove this part. We don't need it. And now we have to do the following thing. So our sign up method returns observable for us, so we can subscribe. Why I don't have auto completion? Maybe I didn't save it. I didn't return it, so we have to return. Cool. So now I can see the subscribe method right here. And now for if everything went successfully, I can provide the next callback, and in this callback I can basically redirect my user to the chat page, right? So we would need to inject a router I'm going to inject a router. And there below, I say just this router navigate to the chat, like that. And let's maybe handle the error and display something once the error happens. So here is the error. Here we go. And so what do we return? Let's maybe add the snack bar for that, Angular material snack bar. So I will open material, angular.io, components, and we have to find the snack bar right here. All right, and let's grab it and then provide it inside our auth module. So I'm going to import it here, and we have to add this to import array like that. And now we should be able to inject our snack bar right there. So let's make it more readable. Here we go. And now I can use my snack bar and say that open, and the text message should be the error message. Of course, you can make the message more user-friendly, but yeah, let's just display it for now as it is. Okay, I think we can save and test it out. I hope I forgot nothing, so let's go to sign up page. Then I provide my email and some dummy password, 12345, and now I can click create an account. And you can see that everything works fine. We see the logged in user and we were redirected to the chat page. The only thing we have to adjust, probably let's display the display name, not the email of the user. So I will go to my app component HTML, and here I have my toolbar, basically the header, and here I display the user email, but here should be display name. And I have to remove this any function. It's just it's built-in functionality into Angular, and it disables the type checking in the template for this particular view. I needed it temporary. Now I don't need, so I can safely remove this stuff. And here you can see that I'm subscribing to is logged in stream from our Auth service. And yeah, I render this part if a user logged in. Otherwise, we show the authentication buttons, basically links to sign in and sign up page. So very easy. I save it, I close this file, and you can see that now it looks way more better. We see the user display name. But our authentication functionality will not be complete without signing out option. So user has to be able to sign out and sign in again. So let's first of all implement the sign out functionality. I'm going to add the button sign out next to this string somewhere. So let's go to app component HTML file again, and here I will add button. It's going to be my button, and I will name it sign out. Here we go. And then once user click on this button, we have to call the sign out callback, and I'm copy it, and then we will introduce this method somewhere here, and then we would call this auth and sign out method that doesn't exist yet. So let's go and implement it. It's going to be very easy task. So we have to create this method, and then we just do this auth sign out. And I'm going to also make the observable from my sign out, because sign out is, again, it is a promise of type void. And then inside my app component, we have to perform some logic once we sign out, right? So we would like to subscribe to it, and if everything is successful, as a next callback, we are going to direct user using router. So we have to inject the router in our constructor, and then I will be able to do a redirect by using navigate method. And we're going to redirect user to sign in route. Oops, I don't need this semicolon here. So we are done, hopefully. So I can save it. I'll pull it down. We can save it and test it out. So here is our application. There is the sign out button. I click this button and we were successfully logged out and redirected to the sign in page. And now the last thing we have to do regarding our authentication, we have to implement sign in functionality. So let's do it. So let's start our sign-in functionality from authentication service right here. First of all, we have to replace this object type with our sign up credentials, or basically we have to create additional interface for that, and it's going to be interface called sign in credentials. And for sign in we need the email and also password, so we can take them, and in order to not repeat ourselves, we will say that sign up credentials, they extends sign in credentials, so we don't need email and password anymore. So they will be inherited from the sign-in credentials. Okay, so we can save it, and then we have to go back to Auth service and replace our object with this new type. Then I remove all those stuff, and we're going to return what? We have to use the dedicated function that will sign in our user, and this function called sign in with email and password, like that. This function takes also authentication as a first argument, right? And then we would need to provide the email and password, so we can destructure them from here, and then I can copy it and paste like that. Also, I'm going to wrap it into the stream, and this is pretty much it, I believe. So now I would need to go to sign in component and adjust my sign in method as well. So here I have to subscribe to it and perform some logic when we successfully logged in. So we would need to redirect user also to the chat page, and we have to inject the router, of course, and we would handle the same way error, and I think we could extract it to some separate service, but yeah, for this video let's keep it simple. Yeah, and snack bar, I have to inject it as well. Here we go. Nice, we are done. Let's try this functionality. So I'm going to use my email and then my password, and I click sign in, and we were successfully logged in. So great. Currently our user can create an account, he can sign out and user can sign in again. The only remaining thing is that we don't have any guard for our role. So if I sign out, I will be redirected to sign in page. But if I navigate to chat, I'm allowed to enter this page, though I'm not authenticated. So we have to fix it, and let's do it right now. I go to the app routing module, and here we would reuse some authentication guards that are coming from Angular Firebase. You can implement your own, feel free, but I will prefer to reuse existing ones. First of all, let's add additional route that will navigate from the root path to the chat. Yeah, and then, as I said before, we have to provide some router guards. So we can start with sign in page, and we will do the next thing. So if user is signed in already, that means that there is nothing to do for this user on this page, so he will be redirected directly to the chat. And yeah, we have to, as always, provide can activate property, and within array we say that we have to use the auth guard that comes from Angular Fire auth guard, like that. And auth guard requires that within the data property we have to provide the auth guard pipe that contains the logic how and where user should be redirected. So I provide this property, and I'm going to import already existing authentication pipe, and it is called redirect login into. And I'm going to provide it here. And we have to provide here the either string or array of the string. So from this value will be built the URL link where we have to redirect the user. There will be built URL tree. So I provide the array with the only one string chat, and it is enough to save and try it out. So I'm currently logged out. I have to go to sign in, and for the reason I cannot do that, we have some error. All right, I think I know what the problem. Here we have to provide it like that. So now I go to sign in. Now everything works, so I have to log in. Now if I try to go to sign in page, I was immediately redirected to the chat page. So our guard is working. And you know what? You can actually simplify all this thing. You can remove all this stuff and replace it with a helper function called can activate. So you have to use it here like that, and you have to use spread operator and provide just this authentication pipe like that. Because if you have a look inside, you can see that it returns just the object that already have can activate guard and provides auth guard as well, and also it has a data property, and it just replaces the pipe you provided right here. And yeah, pretty easy. And now we have nicer and shorter syntax. Cool. Basically the same thing we could do for the sign up page like that, and we should protect our chat page as well. And I will be using also this can activate helper function, but instead redirect logged in into helper function. I will be using another helper called redirect unauthorized to, and we're gonna redirect to sign in page. And let's make it like that, format it a little bit. And yeah, basically you can see that we made our chat as a lazy loaded module, and probably you could, it would be better to implement also a can load guard. So if it works pretty much the same like can activate, but it decides if to load this code at all or not. I have dedicated video about that. You can check it out and implement your own if you want. So let's do the final test of the authentication functionality. So we are currently logged in. So I do sign out. I try to reach the chat URL and I was redirected to sign in. So our auth guard is working. Let's try to log in back. Nice. Everything seems to be work fine. We are done with the authentication, so I would suggest you to commit the stuff. Let's maybe even create it in the separate branch. So we will name it chat feature, and in the master there will be initial state, so you can just do git clone and start to work in parallel, or if you want to see the final result, you just switch to the chat feature branch. All right, and now let's add the commit message, like finished authentication, and we can commit. And now we can start implementation of the chat. All right, let's move on. I will close all this stuff and let's go to the official documentation for the Stream Chat IO. First of all, you would need to create the account in GetStream IO. You can click this button, Get Started for free. Then you can fill out the form and you will be signed up. I have already my account, so I can log in and you will see such a console panel where you can create a new application. So let's create one. I will call it decoded chat. I don't need feed server. I need a chat data storage location, and I will choose the closest location for me. In my case, it would be EU West. And we can either clone some existing app. I don't have any applications so far, so yeah, I leave it just empty. Yeah, by the way, make sure that the location cannot be changed, so be careful with that. And I should choose the environment. So in my case, it is a development. So I cannot create white complaints. Probably we have to choose the server for feeds as well. All right, let's do it. And now we can create the application. So I do that. My application has been created. Immediately I get some notifications. Yeah, and cool. The first step is done. So yeah, you can explore on your own all these tabs, what is existing for, what is available for you. Quite important tab, Explorer, and here you can see all your existing channels, all users. You can create them basically right in your console. We will be doing this automatically. We will be mapping the Firebase users with users for our chat. And it basically reminds me the Firebase real-time database. Yeah, it is very similar. It is not also NoSQL database. You can put any data there and yeah, work with those data later. And of course, you're allowed to do different CRUD operations, like you can remove user or channel right from your console or create a new one. So all those things available for you. Please explore them if you have time. But we have to move forward. And as I said, we would need to create automatically users for the decoded chat application. You might reasonably ask why do we need it, because we already created the user in the Firebase, and indeed we have the user, but GetStream.io knows nothing about this user, so we would need to map this data also to the decoded chat. In fact, GetStream.io has its own authentication. They have own users, and we could use their authentication methods, and we could use their database to store our users and channels. But the reality is quite different usually, because in reality, when you start to integrate your chat in some existing application, you already have some authentication server, either Firebase or some another authentication server. So you would need to integrate them. You would need to integrate your GetStream.io application to your existing authentication system. So this is exactly what we're going to achieve. So that's why I choose this slightly challenging way to do stuff, and show you how you can integrate the Firebase with the GetStream.io, because this is the scenario you most probably meet in the real life. My idea is to create a few additional REST entry points using Firebase functions. And the first function would be triggered when we create a Firebase user. It would use the CDK of GetStream.io, and we would use the API to create a user in the decoded chat application. And the second function will be providing the authentication token for the chat application, because they also require separate token, and that token needs to be generated by GetStream.io CDK. And then we will use this JWT token in order to authenticate our users within our application right here. So it might sound a little bit cumbersome and a little bit hard, but once we start implementation, it will be way clearer. So let's go to the code, and first of all, I will open the terminal and I will initialize my Firebase Cloud Functions. So I type Firebase init functions. I get some strange error. Should I maybe activate my functions? Yeah, I forgot. I have to upgrade the project to pay as you go plan. So let's purchase it. But it is fine actually. Cloud Functions have 3 million of invocations for free, so it is more than enough for testing. And I can start with my functions. So it says that, okay, I have to init those stuff. Let's maybe try to run one more time, Firebase init. Yeah, and now I can choose which language to pick. I, of course, choose TypeScript. And okay, I don't need ESLint for this particular case. Do you want to install dependencies? Yeah, let's do it. Here we go. We have the functions folder in the root of our project. Maybe not the best place, could be better probably to have monorepo, but okay, it's fine as well. So we have this source folder, and here is our first dummy Firebase Cloud Function. For now, we can rename it, and I rename it to create a stream user, and there will be some logic that we will implement in a few minutes. Before we start, let's implement a couple of packages that we would need for our Cloud Functions. And namely, I'm going to install a Stream Chat package and course in order to do cross-origin requests. And GetStream Chat, it is a GetStream.io SDK that we are going to use in order to create the user. And first of all, we would need to import the admin, and we need to initialize the app by doing initialize app. I will also remove that part. And then let's immediately configure our cores. And in order to configure them properly, we have to wrap it in the cores function. So here will be a request, response, and there will be some callback. And there inside, there will be our logic. First of all, we would need to fetch the user data from our request. The user, this is what we will send from the front end to this cloud function. And we will send the user property with the username, email, and so on. So this user we will fetch from the body. Then we will do some simple check. If there is no user, we would need to throw some error and say something like failed precondition. I don't know, any string. We can put a bad request. It doesn't really matter for now. So now if in the else block, if the user exists, we can create a try catch construction, and we can throw some message in the catch block immediately, saying that the request was aborted. And inside a try, we will try to create our user. As I said, we would use the SDK for Node.js for the GetStream IO, and we can import it like that. And somewhere here below, we would need to get the instance of their GetStream client. This get instance actually takes few parameters that has to be provided, namely the key of the application, of the GetStream IO application, and the secret for that application. And we could either hard code them, or we could use the Firebase function config. And in order to create this config for Firebase, you have to run the following command: Firebase function config set, and then you define the namespace kind of for this config. In my case, it is a stream, and the property like application key, and the same for the secret. Of course, we have to replace those values with our. So I'm gonna get back to the Chat Explorer, and here somewhere below, here is our public key, so I can copy it, and then I can replace it with that. And the same I have to do for my app secret. So I go back and I just click on it. It will not be shown completely, just a part of it, and I will paste it, and then I will just run this function. Now you can see that functions config updated, and we would need to run this command to deploy that config. So let's do it. Okay, it complains, okay, we have to build our Cloud Functions first from TypeScript to JavaScript, and here TypeScript complains that there is the function declared, but we are not using it. Okay, let's then just finish our Cloud Functions, and we will deploy everything at the one time. So once our config will be deployed, we will be able to fetch them like that. I just type functions config, it is a function, and then I can fetch stream key. So it is basically this parameter we provided, all right? And the same we have to do for our secret, like that. And having this GetStream IO client, we can already call upsert user method for it, and then we can provide properties we would like to update. So we would like to create user with ID that is equal to the ID of the user from Firebase. Then the same thing we're going to do for the name. So the user display name will be mapped with the name property in GetStream.io database. Then email is going to be user email, and this is pretty much it. We don't have any other data for the user so far, so we are fine with those three properties. And then we could return some response with the code 200 and send some message. You can actually send the user object, the data we inserted, as you want. We are not going to use any data from this endpoint, so I just leave some message there. So our cloud function is ready, looks like, so we can deploy it already. For that, I will run again this Firebase deploy only functions command. It will take some time because we need to compile things, and then we will start the deployment of this function. So finally, deploy is completed. It means that our function is available right here. Yeah, you can see our create stream user cloud function right here. There is the URL to this cloud function. So everything is ready, and as a next step, we're going to adjust our Angular application and call this function immediately once the new user has been created. So I'm going to close all this stuff. Then inside the app features auth and sign up method, we right after updating the profile, we're going to call our cloud function and create the user for GetStream.io database. So what we would need to add the HTTP client. I cannot find it. Probably I have to import this module from Angular common HTTP. All right, like that, and I have to add this to the import array like that, and hopefully now it should be visible. Yep, exactly. And what next? I have to update profile, and basically at the same time I can call the cloud function. So I would maybe use the fork join operator for that. So fork join, it takes the array of observables and it will kind of push the value downstream to other operators when every of these provided observables or promises will be executed, will be completed. So once the update profile is done and once the call to our cloud function executed as well, let's copy the URL, paste it here, and we would need to provide also the data, and the data will be the user. This is what we are going to fetch right here in our cloud function, and the value for this all stuff will be existing user. So we just use the spread operator and we add also display name property to that, right? So in cloud function here we will get the actual user, and this user will have the display name as well. And let's also put this whole string to our environment file, I would say. So here's our environments, because this URL will be different for different environments as well. So it's a good practice to put such a configuration stuff to environments file. And I will call it API URL, and it's going to be this string. So now I can save it. Of course, you have to duplicate it in all your environments. Then I close all those stuff, and we have to import this environment from our environments. It is 3 levels down. Here we go, environment file, and we have to import environment from here. And I'm going to read this value from my environment, namely API URL. Yeah, now it looks definitely better, so we can save it. And I think we are ready to test this everything in our application. So first of all, I would like to remove my existing user. So I will clean it up, because we have to create this user and also create this inside our chat application. So I go to my app, I enter again the user credentials, and I click create account. So my Firebase user has been definitely created. Let's check if it was created in our chat users, and you can see our user has been also created. Just check the IDs. It looks like, let's refresh it. It looks like the ID is the same. So everything works as expected. It has a name, it has an email, the same like we have here in the Firebase. Awesome, guys, it is awesome. I hope you are still with me, because this video is very long, yeah, because it is a bit more complicated to map all those stuff, but we're moving quite good actually. All right, that's fine. Now we can start with the implementation of the actual chat. So I will be doing this inside this component, chat page component. But before, let's check the official documentation for GetStream.io and figure out what we have to install, what kind of dependencies and other stuff. So I'm going to find the Angular SDK, and here's the start tutorial, and here below, yeah, here is our dependencies we have to install. Pay attention, if you use Angular 13, you have to run this command in order to install them, and this command will install dependencies for Angular 12 and below. And it looks like the dependencies are actually the same. The only difference is that you have to run the command with this additional flag for Angular 12 and below, I believe. So I'm using Angular 13, so I copy this command. Now I have to open my terminal. I am inside the functions folder, so I have to navigate to the root of my project right here. And now I'm ready to install all necessary dependencies. Once all my dependencies are installed, I have to go back to the documentation, and we have to import actually 3 modules. The first one is the translate module for translations, and besides this module we have to install those 2. So let's get started with importing the translate module. So I have to do inside my app module, and I have to import it right here. And inside imports, I have to say that I'm going to import it for root, because this is what we have to do inside our app module, and because my chat is actually a lazy loaded module, I have to do the same, but import this module for child. So I'm going to find my chat module, and I have to import this stuff here, and here in the imports module I say that it is for child. save it here, save it here. All right, we are done with the translate module. Now go back to documentation. I grab this import. I'm going to import it inside my chat model because I'm going to use my chat only within this model. I don't need it in app model or whatever else. So I just copy those two guys and import one here and another one right below. Okay, I can save it. And it looks like this is everything we have to import. Now, if I scroll a little bit down, yeah, by the way, you can read a bit more about NGX Translate package, what it does. Basically, it implements the translations for you. There is a translation guide, and yeah, you can get more information about that following those links. But yeah. Here, first of all, we have to inject those three services. They do it inside app component, but as you know, I'm going to implement it inside the chat page components. So it's going to be right there. So I have to import and inject all those services, including stream. Now they say that we have to init our chat, and we have to init or set translations. There is no problem with translations, and I think it is fine if we do it inside ng on init. I don't want to initialize anything inside a constructor, and there is no problem with the set translations, but here we don't have all the data. The API key is okay. It is quite easy to get. We just have to go to our GetStream.io dashboard, and somewhere here, yeah, there is the public key for our chat. So I can copy it, then I can either hard code it and paste it right there, or let's follow some best practices, and I would recommend you to put such a thing inside the environment files, and let's create a stream property here, and there will be the key, and as a value for my key will be this string. So I'm gonna save it, then we would need to duplicate it in the production environment file. So now I can close them both, and we can import it actually from environments folder, and namely from the environment TS file, and right now I can replace it and read my stream key from environment constant. All right, what about those two? So with the user ID, it is also quite easy to do, because the user ID, it is actually the ID of our Firebase user, this one that is duplicated also inside our GetStream.io database, inside our Explorer. You can see our user that has the same ID. So we can easily fetch it. I just go to our Auth service, and I'm going to create some get current user function that will return the current user from Firebase. This exclamation mark tells TypeScript that we know for sure that there will be the value, there will be the user, because here it says that it could be either user or null. We say TypeScript, we know for sure that there will be user. So TypeScript will not be forcing us to do some check before we start to use current user. I cannot tell you that it is a good practice. Usually in real application, you have to check all these cases and handle it properly. Maybe you have to redirect user to login page when there is no user anymore, but just to keep it simple, I leave it as it is. And then I could fetch actually the current user from my Auth service that I have to inject. And now I can fetch the current user and then use the user ID. There is no auto completion. Why? Okay, because I have to return it. Sure. By the way, why did I decide to not get the current user directly from Firebase Auth service, but I used the Auth service instead? It is because I don't want to have tight coupling between Firebase and my application, because if one day I decide to switch from Firebase to some another authentication provider, then the only one thing I have to do is to replace this Firebase related stuff with the new implementation, and this is basically it. I don't need to go through all my application and touch, I don't know, dozens or hundreds components and replace the Firebase there with the new authentication provider. It is because all other components, they rely only on my Auth service, and those components, they don't really care what is happening under the hood. Either we're using Firebase or something else. Unless we keep the public API of this service the same, we are fine. We can replace our logic as we want. We can use any services we want. We just have to follow the public API and return appropriate values from there. And this is the reason why I'm using the Auth service as an additional abstraction layer. So yeah, let's move forward. I hope it's clear for you. And the last remaining thing we have to fix is to get the user token. And this token we need in order to authenticate our user in our GetStream IO chat. So we have one JWT token for Firebase, and we have to create additional token but for GetStream IO application. In order to do that, we would need to create additional Firebase Cloud Functions. So let's go to our functions, and here below I will create the new one. I name it create stream token, and there is basically the pretty much similar stuff we did for the first function. I just fetch the user from the request body, then we do check if user exists or not, and there here inside the try catch we're going to write some logic. Namely, we create a constant token, and then we will await until server stream client will create a token for us. Here we have to provide the user ID, and that's pretty much it. Then we have to just inside the response we have to set the status to 200 and send the token as a response for our cloud function. And this is pretty much everything we have to do. So I have to open my terminal again and deploy my cloud functions one more time. So I navigate to functions folder, and we're going to run Firebase deploy only functions. Also, the cloud functions has been deployed, and now we have a new Firebase Cloud function called create stream token. Good. Okay, I'm closing the terminal, and now we can actually go to Auth service, and I would create a new method called GetStream token, and there I will return this HTTP, and it's going to be the post request. There I have to provide the proper URL, and we need to provide some body for this request, and I'm going to provide a user, and it's going to be the current user. Or I can actually reuse this function. Also, let's add some typings here, because if you remember, we return the token and there will be some value. And let's maybe transform slightly the response from the server, and I'm going to use the pipe, and I will use operator plug that will fetch the value for the token key from my response. So I'm going to do it like that, and we are ready to go. So we have to call this method inside our chat page, and I think we have to do something like that. This auth GetStream token. Now we can call the pipe method, and there inside the pipe we should use the switch map operator, and there we will get the stream token, and there we have to return this part. So I copy it and place it right here, and we have to replace stream token with user token. This init method returns the promise that is basically the proper value for the switch map. Not necessary you should return observable right here, but it could be also promise, and it also could be an array. But yeah, it looks like we successfully init our chat. And now let's quickly maybe jump to the documentation and have a look if we may be missing something. So this part we have already done. This is the channel creation. We will be doing this a little bit later. And it looks like we have to initialize the channel service and start to listen for our channels. However, let's copy it first, but I will slightly modify this query. Here they are listening for the for some particular channel that they created here above, but we will be listening for the channels where we are members, and I will show you how to write an appropriate query. So let's go back, and here after the first switch map I will use another one, and once we initialize the chat service, I want to start to listen for my channels where I'm going to be a member. And as I said, I'm going to slightly change this query, and namely I want to type members, and here is going to be the object, and we have such a keyword called $in, and there we can provide an array of user IDs, and actually I would like to add my current user. So it's going to be auth and then get current user, and there should be user ID. So basically with this query we say that we're going to listen for the channels with a messaging type, and if my user ID is in the array of members for those channels. All right, it looks fine so far. Let's switch back to the documentation, and maybe there's something else. So it is already predefined components that are coming with Angular Stream IO library, and we can see that, all right, we have to import some style sheets. I believe it should be placed somewhere here. Let's import it next to our Angular material, and then we have to modify apparently tsconfig.json file and add this property. Okay, so let's copy it, and where is our tsconfig? Here we go. So I add somewhere here this property and I save it. So now I go to a chat page and also save it. And you know what? We can do? We could actually create some property already, something like is chat available, or better to say, is channel ready. And this property will have the type of observable, and namely Boolean. And also we will say that we will initialize it later, and namely inside our ng on init, and I'm going to assign this stream basically to this property that we just created, like that. Of course, it is not type Boolean so far, so let's map everything here to true. If everything fine, right? So if everything fine and this switch map successfully was executed, and everything inside this switch map, everything was successfully executed as well, then we will map everything to true. Otherwise, if we catch any error, in that case, we will return false, namely observable of false, like that. And why TypeScript doesn't like it? Did we import it from the proper place? No, of course not. Of course not. So I have to remove it from here and import it from a map, or from RxJS, sorry. And now everything looks fine. So we can take this property, and then we can go to our template and create a new section with a class chat, and then we will use ngIf structural directive. Then we will subscribe to this observable using async pipe, right? And so far we just drop some placeholder here like chat is working. If the chat is not ready, we will use the else keyword, and we say that show template called unavailable. Okay, and here we have to create ng template, create a template variable, and we will put something like that. Message that chat is not available right now. I think we can go to the browser and check if everything works fine. Hey, you can see chat is working. It means that everything was successfully initialized right here. So I would suggest you to commit this state, and then we will proceed further. So successful chat initialization, and I'm going to save it. And after that, we will proceed with the chat creation. So let's go back to the documentation, and I saw that we have some predefined components right here. I'm not sure that we need all of them, but let's copy it. Let's copy and paste it, and then we will figure out if we need actually them or not. So I will format it a little bit better like that. And what do we have here? We have the channel list. This is something we need. Stream channel, definitely we need. Channel header, message list also, notification list, message input, stream threads. I don't know if we have enough time to cover this all stuff, but let's keep it simple, right? I will for now remove this part. So we will have a look at the very basic implementation. So it looks like we should do nothing extra. Okay, let's see. Whoa, just check this out. We have like a Facebook chat already, even styles were applied. Cool, cool. You have no channels currently. Yes, we know it. And we cannot obviously send messages, but okay, there is something already. What we can do, let's maybe try to create a chat manually from our decoded chat console. So I will grab the ID of my user. I will need it definitely during the channel creation. So I will name it the Angular channel, means the first Angular channel inside my application. And I don't need, I believe, image URL. I don't want to have it. And I select the channel type to message. And now I can create it. Invalid chat ID. It should be like dashed. All right, GetStream.io, you could automatically create dasherized version of the unique channel ID. It would be super convenient. So now hopefully, yeah, everything is created. And inside the members, I want to add a new member, and I have to add the user ID right here. I add it and I can refetch it, and I go here and check this out. I have my channel right here, and I can just type the message. Hey everyone. Okay, it just works. It just works. Okay, what if we attach the file? Okay, and we can type also some message. This is a bird. Nice. What we can do else? Okay, we can, oh, you see, we can edit message, we can delete message, reply message, sorry, and okay, let's try to edit. This is a bird. Okay, everything works. Let's try to reply. Yes, yes, this is a bird. Not bad, not bad. It works just out of the box. Everything. We can also pick the reaction. Yeah. Very good. Very good. Very cool functionality right out of the box. Would you agree with me? You can see that we have one member, two online. I believe it is because of our moderator that is also online. Probably it is because of that. Otherwise, I don't have any explanation regarding that. It is quite impressive already. But before we created the channel using our console, GetStream.io console, now I would suggest you to create a simple form that would help us to create a new channel right inside our application. So I'm going to go back to my code and let's generate a new module called channels. Here we go. So I generated channels module and imported automatically to the features chat. And now we have to create a component. I call it new channel, and it will be declared inside the channels module that we created just a few seconds ago. And with this flag, I say that this component should be also exported from this module because we will be using it inside the chat module. So I press enter, and Angular CLI created the new channel component for me. Let's jump right there and start to implement some functionality. So what do we have for the new channel component? I believe that we don't have any input, but we would definitely need the output, right? So let's create it, and I will call it saved, and it's going to be the new event emitter, and make sure that you import it from the Angular core like that. And then we say that the type of the emitted value is going to be a string. Good. And then we need the property called channel name, and it will be the new form control. Now let's go to HTML and let's drop some HTML. So I'm going to use the material form field here. And okay, it looks like we have to import appropriate modules into the channel module. And namely, I'm going to import material form field module input and material button as well. So let's add them all right here one by one. And we also use the form control. It means that we have to import reactive forms module as well, and I'm adding this here. So now I can save it and close. You can see that no any errors right now. So I can add some input with the form control assigned. So this form control will be used right here, some placeholder, and we would need to add maybe mat label saying add a new channel. And of course we would need to have some button, and let it be a material polarized button should be fine, with the color primary and with the text create channel. And once user click on this button, we will call on create method that we have to create somewhere here. And inside this method, we will emit the output, and it's going to be the value of the channel name form control. And after that, we will reset the channel name form control like that. And we basically don't need those empty stuff. So let's remove it from here and from here as well. It looks like we are done, and we could try to use this component in our chat page. And I would add this everything somewhere maybe here like that. So let's check this out. Quite ugly, I would say. Maybe let's add some styles for that. I will go to new channel SCSS. Let it be something like that. I hope it will be enough to make it at least somehow nicer. Okay. I would say not good, not terrible, but doesn't really matter. So I close this everything, and then we will be listening for the saved event, and we will call on create method then, and we will create it in a second. Just let's copy it, and then I will add this right here. And now again, let's go to the official documentation and have a look how they create channels. So it happens like that. So I copy it, and on create method, I will call this part. So here we say the type of the channel messaging. Here should be our ID, I believe. Let's check it. Yeah, it's a channel ID, and here some metadata for the channel. First of all, I don't need an image, and instead of name we will replace it with our name that we will get from the new channel component. So I can replace it here, and the ID we will generate automatically out of the name. So I would suggest you just let's just dasherize the name. So we will create a constant dasherize name, and then we will take our original name. Then we replace in this string all spaces with dashes, and we say that it should be in lowercase like that. And then I will be using this dasherized name as an ID for my new channel like that. And here, as I said, you can either do a sync and it will be created, or you can use it as an observable. I think we forgot nothing. Or did we forget anything? Oh yeah, we forgot. Because we have to also explicitly add my ID to the members array. So I have to call auth method, get the current user, and add my ID into the members array. And now I can save it, and let's try it out. So I just reload the page. I create my private ng channel, and I'm going to create this channel, and here we go. You can see my private channel right there. So it means that I just can save these changes and create a commit to fix this working state, and then we will proceed with other chat features. So let me add quickly the message for the commit, and now I do my commit, and let's think what else could we implement for our chat. And I would suggest you implement one button somewhere right here in the header of the chat. And when I click on this button, I can invite another user, because I'm not going to talk alone in this chat. I would need someone to talk with. So I would suggest you to create another user, and then I will show you how you could extend the view of your chats and add additional action buttons. So let's get started with the new user creation. So I'm going to sign out from my current user, and I'm going to go to sign up page and create a new user. I click create account button, and you can see that this user has been created. This user doesn't have any channels, but we can create one. So we're gonna create a channel about UI design. I click create channel, and you can see that this user has its own channel. I can even type some message here, and it works as expected. Now let's implement the button that will help us to add user to the chat. In order to do that, we have to jump back to our VS Code, and I'm going to create a new component called invite button, and I am going to declare this component for the channels module and export it. So I press enter, and everything has been created for me, and I can jump straight to the component TS file and start to add functionality. For sure, I know that there gonna be an input and input called channel. So I will be passing the channel as an input, and it's going to be type channel that comes from stream chat. All right, and then we would implement, we would go to the invite button component HTML, and we would create some button right here. It's going to be material stroked button, and I'm going to add the text like add users. Nice. And before we start implementing the actual logic that searches for users, renders them in the list, and so on, let's try to render this button in the chat header. So in order to do that, we have to go to our chat page, and namely to the chat page component HTML, and I'm going to introduce a new ng template right here. I'm gonna name it channel actions template, okay? And here inside I will render my invite button. I will copy the selector, and here there will be my app invite button. But we have to also provide, if you remember, the input called channel. So let's do it. I will do it like that. And now where do we get the actual channel? We can fetch it from the context that will be passed to this template. About context for templates, I was talking a little bit in the video dedicated to structural directives. You can find it and check it out later. But nevertheless, we get the channel using this syntax, and now we can pass the channel as an input parameter for our app invite button. So I can save it, and then we have to get reference to this channel, and we are going to achieve this by using a viewChild decorator. Here we go, and here is the string, and we pass the reference to the template variable. And then of course I have to add the property, and I'm going to import all these missing imports. So there will be a reference to the template, and this is the actual context of the template. You can see here our channel, by the way. Then we have to implement lifecycle hook called after view init, like that. And here we would create ng after view init lifecycle hook, and here we dispatch the reference to our template to the stream chat by using one special service that allows us to configure templates for every piece of our chat. This service called custom templates service, and you have to of course import it from the stream chat Angular. Now we can go there, and you can see the list of properties that are basically configurable. The piece I want to modify is called channel actions template. And because it is a subject, I would need to dispatch a value into this stream, and the value of it should be our channel actions template. So like this. And now I can save it, and you can see that here is my button add users. So far it is pretty much useless, yeah, But let's start to add functionality to that component. So I will jump to invite button component, and I would like to implement here also some dialog window. So once I click on the button, we would see the dialog window, and there I would already interact with some search field and things like that. I could implement a dialog window using Angular material, but I would like to show you more features and components that are coming by default with Angular Stream.io library. And one such a component is Stream model. And it looks like we have to import appropriate module into channels module. So let's do it right here. I need this stream chat module, and I have to add it right there so I can close it, and you can see there is no error anymore. This component has is open property, and we actually can do two-way binding, and then we would need some property like show dialog, and then I would need to create it right here, and by default it's going to be false. All right. And once we click on this button, we should set show dialog to true, like that. And let's go and check this out. Okay, I click add users, and here's our empty dialog window. I can close it. Yeah, works absolutely perfect. So let's go back and add another piece of functionality. So what do I want to have inside my stream model? I would like to have some form control, and I would like to have some autocomplete stuff. And for that, I would go to my Angular material, and I would like to use autocomplete component, something like that, right? So we would need to import it immediately in the channels module. Here we go. And do I have form field? Yes, I have. So I'm ready to go. So as I said, I want to have mod form field right here. It would have the label search for users. Then I need some input, the placeholder start to type. And of course, we have to attach the mod input directive. So let's do it like that. Then additionally, I would like to assign some form control to it. So let's create one somewhere here. I call it user search, and it's going to be the instance of the new form control. Nice, so far so good. I copy it and provide it as a value here. Do we miss anything else? Yeah, we are missing property mod autocomplete, and we have to provide the reference to this autocomplete component. So let's create it here below the mod form field. Here is my autocomplete. I'm going to create the reference like that. I have to provide this reference to the mod autocomplete as a value for this property. Okay, then I would like to add this directive that will set active the first property inside the mod autocomplete. And we would need, of course, some mod options here. So we're going to go in the loop using ng4 and render users available for us as a mod option. So for that, we have to go to our TypeScript file, and I would create a new property called available users. And this property has the following type. So it's going to be the observable of user response, and there will be default stream chat generics. So yeah. That's what we have. Okay, and here inside the ng-only need, we have to assign some stream to it, and the stream I'm going to start from my user search field, and I'm going to listen for value changes, and then inside the pipe we will transform our data a little bit. So I would use the debounce time first of all, so it can reduce amount of notifications in my stream, and how it actually works you can read in the official documentation. And also I'm going to use start with operator, and I'm going to say that I start from the empty string, and after that inside a switch map I will be using this query string as a parameter for the service that will be fetching the available user from the chat application. And in order to do that, we have to inject the dedicated service called chat client service. And this chat client service, it has autocomplete users method that takes the basically query string and it returns users that are matching this query. So now I can subscribe to this observable in my template right here inside the ng for loop. Say let user of available users, and we have to subscribe to it using a sync pipe. Then as a value of my mat input, I'm going to use user ID and the name. Basically what we will see on the UI, it's going to be the user name. Okay, let's check if it works so far. I go to my chat and let's click add user, and I start to search for Dmitry Mrzhensky, and it works fine. Now we have to add this user to the chat immediately once we click on the option. So I go back to my invite button component, and somewhere here we have option selected event, and I will call add to chat method. And of course we would need the value itself. So let's create this method right here somewhere, and it takes the argument some option that has a type mat autocomplete selected events. So I'm going to import that. We could basically destructure the value we need. So I need the option, and inside the option get the value like that. And now I can take this channel that I passed as an input, and I can call a method add members like that, and it's going to be the array and it's going to be the value, and actually the value will be the ID of the user. You could also kind of rename it like that. So you destructure the value and kind of reassign it to the user ID, and then you use user ID everywhere. All right, it should work. So let's check it out. So I click add user. I try to find Dmitry Mrzhensky and I click on it, and you can see that second member has been added. And now I can even type something like hi, and let's check if wow, there is the mentions and they're working also out of the box. Cool. So we can mention Dmitry Mrzhensky and then send just a message, and yeah, it just works. Cool. And let's sign out and sign in with my email. Okay, and you can see that I was added to channel about UI design, and here is the message. Here was mentioned, and I can say hi Daria as well. And yeah, I could invite also, I believe, Daria to my private Angular channel. Let's try to find her. And yeah, you can see 2 members. Now I would suggest you to commit our changes, and I will show you how you could modify, let's say, this channel previews. So you maybe want to change the design and adjust it to your needs. It is quite easy to do with GetStream Chat.io, and let's have a look how we can do it. But first, as I said, let's commit changes. So I add this message and we commit changes. Awesome. In fact, we already saw how to customize the view of the chat actually. And we have to do it similar way like we did for our chat header. And yeah, in order to change the preview of the chat, you just have to go in the template, create a new Angular template like that. I call it channel preview, and here you can define actually anything you would like to have. For instance, I would like to have some H1 element, and it will be reserved for the chat title, and this is for the last message. Why not? And then we would need to get reference to the channel from the context, the same way like we did for our invite button. And having that, I could already use it somewhere here. I can render the channel data name, and it could be optional, and also we can get the latest message from the channel. We can get a reference to messages and get the latest message from the channel. And then you just need to grab this channel preview and create the reference to it the similar way we did it here. But you have to rename it, of course, and the type here slightly different. You have to use channel preview context right here, and don't forget to import it. And then inside ng after viewing it, we can use the same custom template service, and then we have to find channel preview template property, and we can dispatch our channel preview like that. And if we save it and check this out, we see our layout. Here is some issue. We get an object. Yeah, so we have to reference the text from it. And now you can see our last message, our title of the chat. Our template, our custom template is being used. If you want to handle some, event like activate the chat, you can do it also from here. You can create some wrapper and put everything here inside. And once user click on it, you can call some callback, let's say activate channel, and you can as an argument you can pass the actual channel. Then we should create this method right here. So here's the actual channel. Let's import all this stuff. Then you can use the channel service in order to set the active channel. As easy as that. And now I can save it, go to my chat, and if I click on this chat, it didn't work. Any errors? Okay, there is no text. Okay, because we would need to probably say that it's optional thing like that. And now we see no errors in the console, and yeah, we can switch the active chat by clicking on the chat preview. So I would suggest you to commit our current changes. We just added the custom chat preview, and the last remaining thing, we have to log out our user once we do the logout in the Firebase. So in order to do that, we would need to add additional Firebase Cloud Function somewhere right here. So I will basically copy this last Firebase Cloud Function, rename it to revoke stream user token, and here I will leave the same checks, but I will modify this part, because here we would need to call a revoke user token, and we have to provide basically the user UID, and here I can just set status to 200, or wait a second, sorry, I have to return something from here, so it's going to be an empty object because I don't really need to return anything. I can save it and I can open my terminal and go to the functions and run Firebase deploy only functions. It will take some time. So now my deploy has been completed. After that, we can go to our Auth service, and here in the sign out, you can use a switch map. We would use the callback function here and return the HTTP call from that. It's going to be the post. And we have to provide the URL, and URL comes from environment, but here we have to change it with our new Firebase Cloud function. And of course we have to provide a user, and here there will be user and this auth current user, or I'm not sure if the current user will be existing because we do sign out before. So let's maybe create a reference to some local constant right here before we actually do the signing out. So such a way I can be sure that we kind of cached the user before we do sign out. So here will be actual user, Firebase user, I mean. So I can save it. Then I can switch to my chat, and I will try to sign out, and I will be also sign it out from the chat. We don't see any call, right? But let's try to log in again. Here we go, and now I try to sign out, and you can see that we successfully revoked stream user token. So the authentication token for my chat application was also destroyed. And I remember I promised you to show how to deploy our project to Firebase Hosting. So let's do it, but first of all, I'm gonna commit those changes. Here we go. And if you remember, once we installed our Firebase, we got this additional config called deploy. It is the config similar to what we have for build, for serve, and other commands. It means that we can create an appropriate command inside our package JSON, and we can call it deploy. And then we're gonna run ng deploy, just easy as that. And now I can open my terminal, go one level down, and run npm run deploy. That's it. This command will build our application and eventually the artifacts will be deployed to the Firebase hosting. Cool, as you can see, our project has been deployed, and this is the URL, so we can copy it and open somewhere in the browser. And here we go, here's my application. It is being served from Firebase Hosting currently, and I can still log in with my current user and it will be working fine. The only thing I would suggest you to fix is this scrolling stuff, and maybe let's revert the channel preview because our custom one looks really ugly. It is better to use original one. And the problem with the height actually happens right here. There is a SDK chat class, and we would need to change the height there to something like that, and then we will get rid from the scroll stuff. It will be way more nicer. So let's go to the code, and in the styles CSS file somewhere here, and add my new height like that. And now I would like to go to the chat page and comment out this line that overrides the channel preview. So because I want to use currently the default one, and yeah, I just commented out. I don't remove it because maybe you want to clone the application and play around with that. So I just leave it as it is. And now we can go and redeploy our application, and now we can go and reload our application and hopefully enjoy the nice channel previews, and overall application looks way more better now. So yeah, this is pretty much everything I wanted to show you. Please check the official documentation. There are a lot of options to customize your the view of your chat. Of course, I covered very little part of the whole functionality that is available for you. But if you are interested, yeah, check this out and go through the official docs. Alright guys, that was it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was quite long one, but come on. We implemented the entire chat application where you can send the message, you can attach image to the message, you can reply to it, you can add your reaction, you can add another chat members to your chat rooms. Besides that, we implemented the entire authentication using Firebase, and I think we did really a lot in these 2 hours. If you implemented it from scratch, I would estimate, even in the best scenario, at least 3 months. Additionally, 1 month for fixing and catching bugs and building the appropriate infrastructure for those old features. So yeah, 2 hours, it is almost nothing for this set of functionality we achieved in this video. And leave your thoughts in the comments and let me know if you would like to see more videos about GetStream.io. If I see some requests from you, I would maybe agree on one more video. Everything depends on your activity basically and your requests, so don't hesitate to write comments. Besides that, I just wanted to mention that check out my video courses. Links will be in the video description as well. And that's it. I wish you a productive week ahead. Stay safe and see you in the future videos.